Welcome inside another episode of Point of the Passer. As much as Carolina fans were convinced this team deserved to be in the field of 68, I'm not sure any of us saw that performance coming. What a game by RJ Davis, 26 points on 6 of 6 from deep. He looks more comfortable than ever in the NCAA tournament and ready to lead this team into another battle, this time against Ole Miss, the SEC foe. Jonathan, what a game and what a way to silence the haters. It's been a good 24 hours in Carolina Basketball Nation.
Fantastic. And look, we're not talking about taking a victory lap because we understand what the standard is at UNC and as Carolina fans what we expect. And at the same time, we can appreciate the uniqueness of this moment and the fact that the entire country, especially the media, nationally is coming for Carolina. Clearly, we've talked about this. And to be able to not just silence them, but there wasn't even anything that you could say. Right, like
Right. You left nothing for argument.
no, there's nothing that you could say. I think was it Doug Gottlieb who said, "Sheesh, Carolina, we get it."
Yeah, 5 minutes after the game ended. Yeah, that was Doug.
Yeah, yeah, good for Doug.
After
You know,
dishing it out for 48 hours straight, or as Adam Lucas said, 51 if you want to get precise.
51 if you want to get precise. If you want to get precise, that one win that we had against San Diego State was 25% of the wins that he had all season. If we want to get precise, we
do.
could. Matt Norlander, this was funny. So Matt Norlander with CBS was talking about this game, and he said, maybe Carolina, like maybe this ends up being a blowout, and they win by 27. They rub everyone's faces in it. He just threw out a number, but can he see into the future? Because it ends up being 27,
Yeah.
and it wasn't obviously it was not that close. And
No.
we've been asking for this team during this closing stretch where they've won games, all of these games by double digits, uh, against ACC opponents. The game against State, I think Virginia too, kind of asking for them. Look, if they played their A game, you could win that by 30. You could win it by
Mhm.
40. Just pour it on. We saw that against Virginia Tech, and this was a similar just deluge of offense, dominance on both ends against a much better team.
And yeah, you got a little worried in the first 4 or 5 minutes when you see 4 to 5 turnovers and you say, hey, we're on pace for 40 turnovers. This is the one thing we can't do against this defense. And then suddenly, after a quick timeout by Hubert and a TV timeout, it's game over. They completely turned on the Jets. We start hitting threes like we've known this team to do. And here's the thing. If you thought Carolina shooting the lights out last night was an anomaly, you haven't been watching since mid-February. This is how this team is shot. Granted, their three-point percentage was a little higher last night, even than where it's been. But this is what we've come to know. And exactly to your point, this is what we've come to expect. And this is this team's ceiling. And we saw it last night.
Yeah, that's as well as they can play. It's 40 minutes, or I guess we'll call it about 32 plus for the
Right,
amount of time that
right.
the starters were in the game. That was the most complete game that they've played all season. And yeah, to your point, they did have to adjust. I think it just took a little bit of time. It's hard to simulate a team that has that type of length. They're pretty athletic too, but the length, the ability to deflect passes, especially with their guards, cause problems like we kind of were concerned about, right? That was the issue that
Mhm.
you got to take care of the ball. And the fact that there were four turnovers in the first six possessions and then only two the rest of the half, that just showed how under control and in command Elliot Cadeau was, especially.
Right.
He was fantastic. I think he had
Sensational.
something like 8 assists by halftime, has 12 for the game.
Yeah.
Um, Kept his turnovers low too, and he was just basically doing whatever he wanted to in terms of running the offense, setting guys up for easy baskets, whether that was Lubin in the paint or Seth in transition a couple times, which was awesome to watch, or kicking it out for open threes, like that RJ one to end the half that was just a punctuation
Oh my
mark
goodness.
on an unbelievable first half. Um, but it was, I mean, it was like you said, it was a little slow getting started. So it's 13-11. I want to say that was we're up by two, a little under 13 minutes, and then in about 6 minutes we go on a 20-2 run there to go up 33-13, and that was the game. That's exactly you
Yeah.
want to put put your foot on a throat in these types of situations in tournament play, and that's exactly what they did. And during that stretch, already mentioned Elliot, but Seth Trimble was awesome. We talked about
Oh
how
my
he
gosh.
needed to attack, we needed to get to the rim because yes, they were going to block shots and they did, but they were also going to foul a lot. And he was hitting free throws, but he was also getting out in transition. And some of those finishes are not easy. I did see, I think it was Mark Titus posted something that Carolina's just running fast break drills against air.
Yeah.
I'll disagree with that because the type of floating in the air and contorting that Seth was doing on some of those finishes, that is not easy to do. Um, so anyway, impressed with just how they showed up as a whole. It wasn't one guy, and this is like you said, this is the team we've come to expect, where
Yeah.
each player is contributing in different ways. Jalen Withers was awesome with his energy, with his
Happy for him, man. Yeah.
absolutely hit a couple threes, which always gets him going. But really, it was his rebounding and his defensive rebounding, which is one of his strengths, and his physicality that was a difference maker early
Yeah.
in that game. And the RJ performance will probably, in the course of Carolina history, probably fly under the radar. It should not.
hmm
The
hmm
fact that he goes 6 for 6, nobody has done that in a tournament game for Carolina. Hubert was the last to go 5 for 5 back in '91. I think you had posted, and um, he ties now a group of guys like Shammond Williams, I think Marcus Page, and others that hit 6 threes in a tournament game. And he does it 8 of 12 shots overall, 6 of 6 from three, 26 points. That's the type
Yeah.
of efficiency that we felt like he could get to at some point.
hmm
Um, and to see him do it in this moment and just how free and how much fun he was having and the difficulty of shots that he was hitting, but good shots for him was just it was awesome. I
Yeah.
could go on and on. I'm going to stop here because I know there's much more to talk about, but I think we all just feel a catharsis, a release, and just a level of satisfaction of that's how we know this team can play, and just happy for those guys that they were able to do that for them, just with all of the drama kind of surrounding them even being
hmm
in this event.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you hear from the media, you could see it going either way, right? This team either loses focus and feels too much pressure on them, or they channel it and they say, "Hey, this is our time. We've got a leader in RJ Davis who's in his fifth year, has major experience in tournaments, and he has experience in all sorts in all different ways. And the fact that he's been an eight seed, he's made a run to the national championship, he's suffered the hard losses in Sweet 16 to Alabama, so he's a little bit well versed in every sense of the NCAA tournament. So he comes in feeling more comfortable than ever. And as I always like to say, like RJ playing playground ball, especially when he's angry. And who knows if he really channeled the media? Who knows if he just tuned it out? But like, I like to think that RJ heard a few of those comments and was absolutely under his skin. It asked in a press conference, he said it irked his soul. That's what they brought up on the broadcast last night. And you saw a soul irked in RJ and a guy who was locked in. And then you take that with Seth Trimble. And we mentioned when Carolina got announced into the NCAA tournament, Seth's reaction was stoic, right? It was Kobe mentality, Mamba mentality of him completely locked in. And you even saw it in his halftime interview with Rothstein. Right, he was staring through Rothstein's soul, and I think John wanted absolutely to be anywhere else in the world after that interview. Seeing the whole team come up on that interview at the very end of the game made my entire night because I'm not normally one to focus on the whole media negativity and the media bias and all this what you would call distraction, right? I focused in on it. I think everybody did, but like Rothstein deserved that moment where the whole team came up, and it was a joy. I just had a smile on my face the whole time. I'm happy for these guys. I'm happy for RJ. I'm happy for Seth. Happy for Elliot, continuing his Duke performance, getting 12 assists is the numbers that your brother Badams has talked about since Kansas that he's able to do. It's been up and down all season long to see him start to reach 10 plus assists in three of his last, 6 to 8 games. Really, really phenomenal stuff. And that's what you need from your point guard. You want your point guard to be a point guard, to be confident, to develop into his sophomore season, to feel good going into his junior season about who he is as a player. And again, they were having fun. This team was having fun. They're playing loose. They're an 11 seed. They're the underdog, way better than an 8-9 seed going into the one matchup if you win. I mean, not to get ahead of yourselves, but if you start looking at this and you get a couple wins, suddenly you're in Atlanta in the South region. right? Like I don't want to look too far ahead, but like the path is there for this team to do something great. Let's take it one game at a time, challenge the SEC. Let's see what happens. But these guys are really playing at their peak, and it's been an absolute joy to watch, especially Elliot last night. And you called it on the podcast. You said that's what we need from our point guard. I think he's going to step up, and he showed up.
He did, and that's what you need from him again. You're going to need it again Friday as well. I think. I mean, the thing that is funny about that moment with the team, the whole team being there, and that's what they've been doing since the ACC tournament started. I
Right.
think right with the interviews,
It's
which
not
is
an
just
attack on John. It just is.
no.
That's how this team shows up. It's family.
That's what they're doing. But RJ did give him a extra little glare at the end there, so you could they knew exactly what was
Yeah.
going
There's
on.
a
But
chip.
to your point, it wasn't a distraction. It was something that they were
Hmm.
able to kind of harness that energy. But they were already motivated and determined to be in that situation anyway, and it kind of been building towards this. So uh, this kind of put things over the top for them. I wouldn't want to play that team right now. I wouldn't want to
No.
be in that situation that you have Mississippi kind of waiting on Friday for a team that's already been able to get put a game together like they did, build that confidence in the
Yeah.
tournament setting, and have a lot of energy coming in. So you do have to start over. Every game's gonna be different. They may not shoot like they did in this game, but to your point, that's kind of what they've been doing, and it's not a one-off or an anomaly at this point.
Hmm. Yeah, and interesting just to note that, this game is Friday actually at 4:10 in the afternoon. And so typically, teams that play on Tuesday would play on Thursday. There's a scheduling issue kind of adjustment with BYU. Thanks Bubba, I guess. Is that what the haters want to say? Thanks Bubba. Bubba definitely had a hand in this, right? That's how that goes.
I think everything's going to be thanks Bubba from here on out,
Yeah. Yeah.
as far as this goes.
It's like a
Um,
great thanks Obama.
yeah, no, that's 100% what it's just going to be a running thing from here on out, and anyway,
Yeah.
it is funny how it got to that point, but
Yeah.
um, I am glad that we had that game to be able to focus on the basketball again and to have such positives
Sure.
come from that. And the other narrative that's going to come out of this is that San Diego State is not as good as we thought, which you can't have it both ways. If you're saying that a
Right.
team earned their way in based on what they did before, and then whatever happens in a one-off situation doesn't validate or invalidate that, you can't make that judgment about them
Sure.
as a team.
Yeah, you don't
Uh,
get to do that.
no, and it had a lot to do with honestly with how Carolina played, right? And so
Hmm.
the fact that they scored 82 points with a little under 8 minutes to go
Yeah.
in the game, and that was the most that San Diego State had given up all season was 80 points in a full 40 minutes. Um, it apparently had to go all the way back to 2006 for them to give up as many as 95 points in a game. Um, this is a really good defensive team. They've been that way for a long time, and they clearly got exposed last night. But it wasn't
Yeah.
because of anything that they aren't quality on that end of the floor. It's just that Carolina was overwhelming in terms of their offense.
Yeah, and it seems like they channeled Matthew McConaughey straight out of Wolf of Wall Street at halftime because they saw 47 great numbers on San Diego State. Most any team has dropped, and they said those are rookie numbers. All right, those are rookie numbers. Let's pump those numbers up. All right, let's get 48 in the second half, and those are huge for UNC. And the fact that we end up with 95, again, taking your starters out the 7 to 8 minute mark, getting Ty Claude minutes, getting some other folks in there. Just an unreal performance. I think every Carolina fan had a big smile on their face. I know I did last night watching that game. It felt good to be relaxed during a game this season. I think that was it. It was like a release of this is what this team's been about the last month. And on top of that, now the world's getting to see it. And so the 180s that happened and all the replies and all the Twitters, just beautiful backtracking like I've never seen before. And I also get that not quote unquote being deserving of the tournament doesn't mean that because you got a good win that you should be in. At the same time, they were out to prove something. A 27-point win that should have been a 30 to 35-point win if you leave your starters in, maybe 40, is not a coincidence, guys. All right, this team clearly showed that they deserved. maybe we should have focused our thoughts on Xavier instead. The committee may have got it wrong in swapping those teams, and we should have been focused on Xavier getting that last spot anyway. I digress. The bubble's over. We're in round one. I'm ready to go. Let's take on the SEC.
You're right though, because the backtracking was really funny, and it was
Phenomenal.
the primary people who were in the media that were making the most noise were the ones that backtracked first, except for Rothstein, who's he's doubling down, and
Sure.
that's fine. That's
Bring it on.
good luck, I guess. But
Yeah. Good
everybody
luck in
else, I
Chapel Hill
mean,
if you ever come. Yeah.
that too. Um, don't think you're getting a beer at top of the hill anytime soon. Uh, but you have all these other guys who like Lenardi now picking us. I think you mentioned picking us to the Sweet 16. Uh, there's even people saying maybe Elite Eight further than that. Um, we'll see. You got to take it one game at
Sure.
a
Let's not get
time.
ahead of ourselves. Absolutely.
Let's not get ahead. And we'll talk about Mississippi's a good team. It's a step
Yep.
up from who we played, especially with
For sure.
their center being out as long as he was. He had a pretty that was a pretty significant brace on his knee. I thought he
Yep.
played okay, but
Yep.
that's definitely a factor, and that
Yep.
hurt them down the stretch too when they lost some games that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. Anyway, so you move on now. Friday's a new day, a new game, a whole new situation in Milwaukee. It's a Seth Trimble homecoming of sorts back in Wisconsin. Uh, I'm just excited. I'm excited that they're in the main part of the tournament. Right. These are the days, Thursday and Friday, that we look forward to really all year. Um, as sports fans in general, I think it's two of the well, I don't think they are two of the
They are.
best days of the entire sports calendar. Uh, so I'm ready for honestly ready for Thursday for the
Mhm.
whole slate of games, but then 4 o'clock Friday, ready to go
Yeah.
and ready to see what they can do. Can they replicate some of the things they did the other night?
Yeah, it's nice. If there's any sign that points to that going well, it's the fact that Vegas has Carolina as a favorite. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the only other team that's an underdog and favorited in the entire field, um, it was either San Diego State. It was some 12 seed. I can't remember at the moment, but it was a 12 versus 5 that was favorited. So looking at that 11-6 matchup, I think it might have been Colorado State, if I'm not mistaken, over
You're
Memphis.
right.
Yeah,
It was over
yeah,
Memphis. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, so I think that was the only one that I looked at that was actually, in the good eyes of Vegas. So take that for what it's worth. I think it's going to be a really close matchup, but I do think that Carolina comes out on top. Jonathan, I know you're going the other way, based on how you predicted last episode and based on some superstitions. So yeah, it's
Can't
definitely
switch
Ole
it up
Miss.
now. That's
Yeah, yeah,
that's
lock it in. But absolutely, let's talk about this Ole Miss matchup. As much as San Diego State was fun, if we're the team right now, I know they're already locked in on Milwaukee. They're locked in on focusing on what's ahead. So, what do you see with an Ole Miss team that you don't hear much about throughout the year because of the top of the SEC, but they are deserving of a spot. They earned that sixth spot. They have quite a few good quad one wins, which we know has been a talking point, and they've proven themselves several times over. But there's maybe a reason these teams are evenly matched up in the Vegas line too. So tempo is going to be definitely a little bit faster. San Diego State really tried to slow things down, was not successful, obviously, with us dropping 95 points. But what do you expect from this team, and what are the keys to victory as you see it?
yeah. Well, to your point, it is pretty evenly matched, and Vegas usually knows as it relates to that.
Yep.
They're 29th in Torvik, so they're a few spots ahead of Carolina, but not really by that much. Offensive efficiency 31 and defensive efficiency 33rd in Torvik. So both good numbers, but not great or elite numbers. And I think that's kind of what you see from this team overall. It's a good team. They don't necessarily have one area that they do extraordinarily well. Um, I'll take that back. The one thing that they do really well, they're third in the country in turnover rate in terms of offensively, they take care of the ball really, really well. And
Mhm.
then on the other side of it, they're also decent. They're in the 30s uh, in terms of turning folks over on the other end of it. So this is going to be another game. I almost feel like you could take the keys to the game that we talked about for San Diego State, even though the situation is different and some of the things we'll talk about are a little different. Overall, taking care of the ball is huge. We're not going to turn over Mississippi that much. That's just not how we play. So I expect a clean game if Carolina, who also takes care of the ball really well as well, can avoid turnovers. So that's what you need to do, I think, first and foremost. And then from there, defensively, they struggle with rim protection. They're much lower in rim protection. Um, Let me get that number. So block rate, we talked about San Diego State was one of the, well, not one of the best. They were the best in the country. Mississippi is 316th in block percentage.
Ooh,
So
we're looking at 360-ish teams. So
yeah, yeah. So this is a team that struggles to protect the rim.
mm,
They are able to avoid getting blocked at the rim pretty well on the other side. We're also not a great team in terms of rim protection. So I expect a good amount of getting to the basket in terms of drives to the basket on both sides.
yeah,
Because obviously you have the guards that we have that do that really well. For them, Sean Padula, who played at Virginia Tech, we're pretty familiar with.
sure.
I was
Yeah,
the one game I saw at the Smith Center last year was Virginia Tech, so I got to see him in
yeah,
person. We've done really well with him over the years, but you're going to have to contain him, keep him from getting to the paint, and then he's a decent 3 point shooter. I think he's in the high 30s,
yeah,
and then one of their best and highest volume shooters, top scorer to at over 14 points a game. So he's the one that I think you need to have an eye on. I think this could be a kiddo game on defense because that's one of the things we didn't talk about was how well he
hmm
played defensively.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you really stepped up.
And when he is playing with his hair on fire on defense, I go back to that Florida State game in the ACC tournament, first game last year, where it felt like he had a steal almost every possession. He had a little bit of blood on his knee from just the floor burns and getting on the ground and all of this, just how much havoc he was wreaking on that end of the floor. Had 3 steals in the game the other night. So his defense on Padula, you can also put Tremble on Padula too, but that's going to be really important because outside of him, they're really balanced. They actually, I don't think I've seen this very often. They have 5 guys who are also in double figures. So they have 6 guys all together, but they're all ranging from 10.4 to 10.8 points per game. That's really balanced, which tells me a couple of things. A, it is going to be multiple guys that you have to account for, so they are going to have some balance, but it's a different guy on a given night. There's
Mm,
not one guy that you can outside of Padula that you can sort of expect that.
yeah,
Sometimes it's been Jermaine Brakefield, sometimes it's been Dre Davis. You just kind of go down the list of those guys in that group. Malik Dia is a Belmont transfer actually, so that's another just interesting storyline. Kind of transitioning to that is you have the Belmont transfers with Kate Tyson and Dia. You have Louisville transfers with Dre Davis, who started his career at Louisville before going to Seton Hall. So he and Withers were teammates. And then Brakefield was at Duke, so we're familiar with him.
yeah,
RJ would have played against him that first year. So, and then Padula. So you have a lot of guys
yeah.
who either played with each other or have played against each other. So even though I don't think we play Mississippi very often, there's still more familiarity in this game than you would expect.
Such is life in the transfer portal and
That's true.
transfer college basketball. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you start recognizing faces, and we talked about it the previous episode. Some of these storylines of guys like Jeremy Roach at Baylor, potentially facing Duke, and you've got Caleb Love, previous Tar Heel, obviously, and playing for Arizona, potentially taking out Duke as well. There's James Okonkwo in the mix, and it's just fun to follow all these guys and support them as individuals too. But yeah, appreciate the quick breakdown of Ole Miss. One of the things I do want to point out that we didn't quite touch on with the San Diego State game is that Jalen Withers actually had a pretty sneaky double-double with 10 rebounds, which I think deserves a quick point out for him because after that Duke game, which was tough, to come out and get a double-double and sink a couple threes right off the bat. He goes 2 for 4 overall, but makes his first two. The confidence was clearly there. We needed it. Him and Elliot got it going on early, and then RJ said, "Okay, well, if I see you guys making it, I gotta get in on the fun and go 6 for 6." So I think it just kind of piggybacks off of each other, but just touching on Jalen a little bit, really happy for him, and just to what to point out what Seth said in his post game interview at Duke is, yeah, that's a difficult moment for Jalen, but I'm excited to see what he does. And you mentioned that in the last episode as well. Excited to see the Jalen story arc, and I think maybe it's just beginning, and RJ carries the lead, and Jalen is there, dropping the double doubles and giving the support
He very well could have another game. It could be this next game where he has three, four, or more threes, right?
for sure.
Which really gets him going offensively. But he made good plays on the offensive end overall.
Mm.
And the one pass that Elliot had that reminded me a lot of Kendall Marshall flipping it behind him to Henson or Zeller with Withers cutting in and just had a really nice layup off of that. Um, we just haven't seen a ton of that with the offense this year. So it was encouraging just to see the ball movement, but also the creativity, excuse me, from Elliot and the way that Withers is a cutter. We've always talked about how he's dynamic when it comes to that, but the shooting has just gone to another level here. So excited for him, but you're right. I mean, the double double, the fact that the 10 rebounds, we need him to be physical on the glass. And
Yeah.
Mississippi is not a great rebounding team on either side. They're really not a good offensive rebounding team. So he and Lubin, I think, really just need to continue to
Hmm.
clean the defensive glass, especially. That's when we've been at our best under Hubert Davis, is when you have strong defensive rebounding games or players over the course of a season. So we've kind of seen that as the defense has gotten better here down this stretch. So that's another piece I would say. So just kind of to recap, taking care of the ball in terms of the turnover piece of it is huge, but then being aggressive, getting to the rim. They don't have the rim protection. They also, just positional size wise, these teams are really close. We actually, because Drake Powell's
Yeah.
6'6", their three starts at 6'4". We're going to be the taller team on the court with our starting lineup, which we have not said
It's
too
a
often.
rarity. Yeah.
Yeah, this year their guards start 5'11",
Okay.
um, and Juju Murray, Jalen Murray is 5'11". Padula is listed at 6'1". It's very similar to RJ and Elliot.
Sure.
Anyway, um, so that piece in terms of attacking the rim, they also foul a lot too.
Hmm.
And I feel like, again, we said similar things about San Diego State. Get to the rim, not to get fouled, but to draw contact, finish through contact, and good things will happen. So I do think this is another game where the same three guys that we talked about, Elliot and then Lubin, the combination of those two guys working together, but Seth in transition during that run that we had talked about just how impactful he was. I, I don't know that they have anybody who can contain him in transition. So we'll see who they end up matching up with him, but he's going to be a problem in this game. And then we haven't even talked
Mhm.
about Ian Jackson, who started to get off some of
Yeah.
his patented step backs, the one crossover that he
Oh
had
my
that
gosh. I think my ankles are still hurting after that one, man. Oh my gosh.
yeah, there's at
What a
least
move.
one or two or five fans that are going to be memes from that or
Yeah.
gifs from that moment. That was pretty awesome. Not to mention the three goggles that came out, both with
Yeah.
Seth and RJ, but fans too. So, yeah, so a lot to carry over into this one, but a lot of similarities, and I think you continue to play your game in that sense.
Sure.
Um, so I feel a lot like I did with San Diego State, where we have the better roster overall. We have the better top end talent. We have the advantage in terms of how we like to play uh, and how we can exploit some of their weaknesses. And for all
Yeah.
those reasons, I'm picking Mississippi to win the game.
Perfect. As expected. Yeah, we would expect nothing less for Jonathan to go that way. And if you didn't hear about the 2022 stories about how we made that run, it was because Jonathan might have showed up on time to my house, but he didn't actually come in until the under 16. So again, we shout out to Woody. Go where you go, do what you do, don't change things up. So Ole Miss for the win, huh?
Yeah, they're gonna win the game. Again, I don't have any really good reason. And that being said, they definitely could win this game, right?
Sure.
They have enough guys. I mean, Breakfield's had moments where
They're still
he
SEC,
still
they're no
SEC.
joke.
Brakefield, his percentages are lower than I would guess, but his catch and shoot ability, you got to have somebody on him. We have enough length with Drake, maybe Jalen Withers to start with him at about 6'7", 6'8", and then Dia's an interesting player in the middle too against Lubin. I think that's gonna be a fun matchup. Those
Mm,
guys match up really well. I think it's an
yeah,
advantage Lubin in that matchup too. So I expect a big Val game. I would not be surprised if Val has a similar game like he had in that stretch there. I think it was Duke, right, where he had 20 and 10
hmm
maybe. So I
Yep.
would not be surprised if he has a game like that. That's going to be really important for us, actually, too.
Yeah, looking forward to it all. Just going back to the free throws a little bit, 21 of 24 from free throw line against San Diego State. That's pretty consistent with what we've done. We've been shooting 81, 90, 83% over this last month or so. A couple games early on in February were a little lower, but we've really kind of increased that. And you see guys like Seth getting to the rim and then finishing at the line, going for, I think it was 6 for 6 in the first half. And so continue to do that, especially against a team that doesn't have great rim protection. You like to see Elliot under control, being aggressive, finishing, getting the and ones. If he does get blocked, hitting both of his free throws. And that's when you really see the lead extend out a little bit and bring the same energy early on. It's not that many times that we've seen this team really get out to a real lead. And that was huge for their, not only their confidence, but just for the overall flow of the game. And, even when they had those turnovers, they were still pushing San Diego State very quickly and tight on defense, even though when they were turning the ball over a little bit. So I think those are all keys to the game. It'll be, gosh, man, we're just so lucky to have RJ in March. I just keep going back to that. 6 for 6 was unprecedented and just like really, really exciting to see. So, what a player, what a guy. But this whole team, again, bench points. We had four guys in double digits. Ian with 9 almost got to the 5 number again, which historically looking is a really impressive place to be when you're getting that consistent bench production and that many guys in double digits. So, anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up? Much shorter pod than the 90-minute spiel we went on last time with the whole bracket breakdown and media drama and all of that. But we're feeling settled in here and feeling excited about the next round.
I think that's it. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I guess the last thing would be Chris Beard as a coach defensively. That he's been known as a defensive guru, and they
Mhm.
typically play a pack line defense, which is also what Tony Bennett and the Bennett family was known for running too. So I think knowing that they haven't quite gotten yet at Ole Miss to the level that he was at Texas Tech or Texas,
Mhm.
and that's honestly to our advantage. So I think we'll be able to continue to kind of a push the tempo, but do the things we want to on offense. Um, and I just hope that they continue to execute at a level where they're running a diversity of sets because we didn't see hardly any of the stalling out, right, and just the
We didn't,
iso-
and we were worried
isolation.
about that on the
We
pod.
were we
Yeah,
were because of the way that how
yep,
aggressive San Diego State is. So,
sure,
so I think that that is really a key too, is to avoid that as much as possible, continue the ball movement, but also the smart drives to the rim, like we talked about. And then defensively, fighting through screens. I think we saw that more. Hubert does just as a philosophy likes to switch a lot, and heard Dewey Burke talk a lot on Inside Carolina's podcast about the fact that Roy's philosophy was you fight through everything.
hmm
You don't switch that much, and that's
You go Kobe on Paul Gasol, first elbow
right,
in.
right. It's a mentality. There's a toughness about that, and I think there is some truth to that. I think you got to be smart
Hmm.
now in today's game and how you switch. But um, we saw guys fighting through screens really aggressively,
Yep,
and that to me just speaks to a different mentality on defense, but also they seem much more connected. There's still going to be times where they give up open lanes to the basket just based on our personnel, um,
sure,
and and so that's part of it. But you limit that as much as you can, and so that's what I'd like to see. Is a granted, Ole Miss is a better offensive team, but they're not an elite offensive team. This should be a game where I think we can get some separation. It's can you sustain it? Can you avoid that
sure.
run back the other direction from happening? Can you show that kind of toughness um, and level of execution and focus? So, and I think they will. They'll find a way to lose the game. Like I said, Ole Miss is gonna win the game, but yeah, I think they're gonna be locked in.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm looking forward to it. I wish everybody the best of luck in their brackets. I've gone back and forth between making 1 and 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and I always go back to the one that's the gut on Sunday when the bracket is released. I think I highly recommend that's what everybody do. It's fun to stick to that old kind of written in Sharpie bracket that you used to print out. And again, wish everybody the absolute best in whatever bracket tourney they're entering. So, Jay, I don't know if you finished yours entirely, but uh,
I haven't even started
you
True to
haven't
Form.
even started.
I haven't started. No, I'll get mine in right before tip off tomorrow. Is
Yeah,
typically
yeah.
what
I mean, I'll
happens.
be changing mine. So,
Yeah, one team that's not in the bracket, as we've discussed, is NC State. But I do want to bring them up quickly because it's not official. But the news that's coming out is that as soon as McNeese State is out of the NCAA tournament, that Will Wade will be the next NC
mhm.
State coach. So I was just curious your thoughts on that because that's really big news, obviously, with Triangle basketball.
Yeah, I'm just excited for it to be renamed Will Wade Avenue. It's a train wreck of a road already, so a train wreck of a basketball program, right? Is that how that works? No, in all seriousness, I do think it's a good hire. I think his recruiting has proven to be, really solid at McNeese. His in-game coaching, he's been in the tournament back to back. He's always making noise, and I think most importantly, he brings the energy level and the excitement back to a fan base that needs it. You saw it last year when they made a run. It does exist. They can get vocal, they can get loud and cheer for that team and be very supportive, but you can't have those down years. And in all seriousness, the triangle is better and college basketball is better when all three teams are playing at elite levels around the triangle. It's fun. Do I still want to whoop them? Absolutely. But it's fun when they're relevant, and it's exciting to see what the basketball program will do down in Raleigh.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I want to beat them every time, but it also it does make it more fun when it is more of a contest, right? It's you're
Yep.
not you just look at the numbers. The numbers are staggering, and so um, I still don't see them moving above Duke or Carolina, but at least being
Right.
more competitive. And I guess the other piece of it is that Jeff Goodman tweeted this out that there couldn't be a better marriage between a coach like Will Wade and NC State's fan base.
hmm
And I don't think that's a compliment to, to
You
either.
go to Wikipedia and look up Will Wade.
but but I do think it's accurate. So
Yep.
to your point, yeah, I think that's part of the excitement is yes, he's a
Sure.
good coach, but he also fits their fan
He
base,
does. Yeah.
which matters over. That's been part of the issue is finding somebody who does, and then winning obviously is going to matter. He's not somebody who is established. Like it's not like a Roy Williams coming in where you kind of know, okay, this guy he's already a Hall of Famer,
Right. Right.
so he still has some things to prove, which I think that also benefits them too. It'll be really interesting. So I just want to bring that up quick because
Yeah.
that's again not official yet. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's
Things could
98%
happen.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's most likely going to happen, but
If
stranger things have happened. So until it's official, I kind of hold off.
if 12 seed McNeese beats Clemson and goes on a run against Purdue or whoever it is and beats Houston and makes it to the Final Four and wins the championship, we might have a different conversation. Otherwise, I think he's locked in NC State.
Well, yeah, he might be going somewhere else. He's probably still leaving, but he's going somewhere else.
Right.
Um, yeah, or maybe maybe they play Carolina. That'd be really funny.
There you
Um,
go.
apparently, his wife is a UNC alum, so that also adds
See,
another
God,
layer.
I just knew there'd be some other level to it. God, you buried the lead there, man. God, you just got to drop that right at the end.
Yeah, yeah. So
Good
that'll
for
be
him.
interesting.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. It's exciting for the fan base. It's exciting for, changes to happen in the triangle. And, there's been, now all three, within the last all three big programs within the last couple of years changing coaches. And so for a while we had, Roy K and Keats and NC State made their deep run and UNC and Duke are always relevant with Kay and Roy, and now we're just proving something else that's kind of ACC 2.0 or I guess 3.0, depending how you see it. The additions of Syracuse and all that. I'm ready to just order a vintage 1990s ACC tee to wear to the games tomorrow night. I wish I could get it on Amazon Prime in time.
As long as you have the Manic shirt, Oklahoma Manic
I
shirt,
might have to
that's
custom create it. It wasn't going to get
that's
here
fine.
on time, but
That's
it's
fine.
fantastic.
Just so he knows.
Or
Just so
just a
he
manic
knows.
UNC jersey. I might stop by Franklin Street and see what they got.
Either one is fine. We could even go into the archives of like, was there a rivalry that Hurley had with a player when he was at Seton Hall? We could
Right.
really dig deep.
Yeah, we could
Um,
dig deep and sit right behind the bench, right?
I might actually work on that for you. So that'll be my project between
Yeah,
now
yeah. Stay
and that
tuned.
game.
So
Yeah,
I will say I was out on Franklin Street today meeting with a few former colleagues at UNC from years past, and I walked past a sign at the Shrunken Head that said, "Keep hating, it's working." So I think we just channel that energy and we'll be good to go.
it's been working for the podcast too. So we
It
passed
has.
over a
Yeah.
thousand followers on Twitter. We appreciate all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
support. And just excited about that. The community, the engagement. It's a fun time of year, and it's just like we said,
Big time. Yeah.
extra fun. Just the way that everything just unfolded here.
It was just
It was
brought to us. It was just delivered on the doorstep. We didn't have to try for it.
no, we're not even really generating content or doing anything creative. It's just
Just
right there.
reactive.
But so a thousand, I think. Should we get shirts? I think we should get shirts made for to commemorate this.
You might be onto something. What do you got?
I'm thinking of like a 1K logo, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. hmm
the nice thing
Expand on that.
And the nice thing is you could repurpose that. So like when we step away from the podcast, whenever that happens, retire from the podcast, maybe we could use that in a different way to celebrate our achievement. We just got to make sure that we announce we're retiring from the podcast a year in advance. And then if everyone could shower us with gifts, make sure that you, shake our hands for sure. Don't
Perfect.
snub us in any ways.
Right, right. Make sure you give a really uncomfortable speech afterward. Can you retire from a podcast you don't make money on? I'm gonna dive into that a little more.
I think, I think we can decide. We can call it whatever we want. I think if you can have a year long retirement tour, insist that everyone gives you gifts and be disappointed or basically cut people off if they don't give you the gift that you felt like was appropriate, then yeah, I think we can retire from the podcast
The
if we want
sky,
to.
the sky is the limit, and the ceiling is the roof.
That's
We'll just
it.
we'll
Always
leave it
is.
there.
It always is. It was definitely
That's
sunny in Dayton. I know
It
that
was
much.
so sunny in Dayton. Gosh, bright skies, man. Carolina blue, just beautiful basketball. Really enjoyed it the other night. Hope we do it again. Appreciate y'all listening. Appreciate the 1K followers on Twitter and all uh, the shenanigans this week. I should say it's been a fun 48 hours, 51 hours, as Adam Lucas would say, playing defense against the media critics. Just really glad that we all got last night together. But hey, let's go beat Ole Miss and let's shout out Go Heels.
Go Heels.